everybody. Surprise, surprise, we've got Harry from McFly here. Completely unexpected. We've just nabbed you from some sort of food place. So, how are we? How are you doing?
I'm good, yeah. I'm hot. It's absolutely
It's hot in here.
I can't complain. It's good weather. Good weather for a festival. It's good.
So, hopefully I can ask you some drum-related questions instead of just some general stuff. So, we'll jump straight in. We've got some basic questions. Do you warm up before you play a set?
I always warm up. I just don't feel I even warm up enough. Like I was in the studio the other day just playing by myself, and genuinely, like, maybe after an hour of playing I was suddenly like, oh, okay, now I'm flowing. So backstage at a gig on a practice pad, it's often just never quite enough.
Yeah.
And also I find when I'm on tour, like, you start to get a little bit lazy, and I know the set now, but still often, like, the first few songs we always do energetic songs, and I'm like, oh. So yes, always warm up.
Do you have like a set thing that you like to play? Like, some people like singles or whatever, or for me personally, I love to improvise and kind of get that flowing.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I just go through some of the rudiments. I mean, I'm quite scatty when I do it, so I end up just playing, doing anything. But yeah, I think some sort of rudiments with both feet going, just to get your, like you said, get your brain switched on. Some kind of harder bits, but then also warm up to some quicker stuff, just to particularly to get the right hand going. But
is your set to click?
Yeah, pretty much all of it is to click.
So do you ever use? Sometimes it takes me a while to like lock in. I'm guessing because you're doing it so frequently.
Do you know
you don't
what?
have to worry about it so much.
I sometimes do. When I'm being focused and I practice, I will try and practice, like, exercises and stuff to click. But it depends. Like the other day, I went in and I just had my iPad and I just was like watching some TV series and just playing the drums for like an hour and a half. And I was like, I can't focus today, so I'm playing.
That's not a bad piece of advice. However, if you're brand new, don't do that, because your technique will be bad.
Yeah, you will. You'll fall into like poor technique for sure. You have to, but also when you lock in with practice, it's like a really therapeutic thing.
Yes.
And it's something if I have a day off, it's something I really like to do. I like to exercise and then go and play the drums, and it's really like productive, good for your brain, good for your mind. It's exercise for the brain. Yeah. And I always feel good afterwards.
So you were talking about rudiments for warming up. Yeah. How do you apply rudiments to your playing? And are there any kind of like sexy inversions or anything you like to use? I'm a 6-stroke roll.
Roll, are you? I mean, in terms of inversions when we're playing in bits, not really. I mean, most of our stuff is kind of solid. I hit hard. Yeah. There's some slightly more intricate stuff in there, but a lot of it, I guess, as well, is endings of songs when you're trying to like go do some like big ending and fast
big old
stuff.
Trash ending.
Exactly, but no, I mean, and also a lot of practice I do is in rehearsals, like trying to put things in. And often your bandmates are like, oh, no, you do it. No, it goes a bit wrong, be like, it's fine, I know, I can actually do the bit, but I'm just trying to...
We're not having quintuplets.
No.
We're not doing that. No. So when you're doing a big finish like that, do you do any specific like sticking patterns or... Yeah,
I mean, again, 6-stroke roll, it could be anything. You just have to let your mind be free and just let it happen. And that's something, like, there's this rough structure to what I do to a certain songs, but it was not anything ever practiced. You just end up just doing.
I always lean on like Bonham triplets, for example. It's just always a go-to show off.
Exactly, and also the 4 singles with a double kick.
Yeah, like 6.
Really fast. Move it around the kit.
Use that too much.
It sounds really impressive.
Yeah.
And then if you work in some single kicks with that, it sounds more interesting, and so. That's the stuff that when you learn that, like I said, it sounds super impressive, but it's not actually that hard.
It's always good to have
Shouldn't tell people that.
Yeah, it's good to have 1 or 2 in your back pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're really in a sticky situation.
Yeah.
So I don't actually know what your kind of setup is.
Yeah.
So one piece of equipment that strays from the normal that you can't do the set without, do you feel?
Well, I always used to have a fairly simple setup, but like a recent album we did like back in 22, 23, it was quite like 80s rock influenced, so there was a lot of kind of, rack toms, and so I actually on the tour I went out with 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, so I was like, woo! And actually when you sit down you're like, oh, okay.
That's sick.
And you suddenly feel like all these different like tones and stuff, you're like, this is really fun. But there was only a couple of songs where I was really using, so I've reduced it down to a 10, 12. So that's where I'm at the moment. But yeah, I used to just be 12, 16, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But I always love a China. I always got my China in there.
Yeah.
I'd say every other tour the splash appears and then it disappears. You know.
Kind of go in and out.
Yeah. Sometimes you play it and it feels a little bit like token, but.
So you're probably out touring and gigging quite a lot, and it's most of your time. Do you do any teaching or anything like that?
No, I've never done that. No, like I guess I've always just been like too busy. And to be perfectly honest with you, like I have no experience with teaching. Like teaching is a very particular skill, and because I think for me as well, when I first started, I was self-taught for a couple of years, and then had a teacher, and then was in a band, and then did a lot of my like development and learning online with online, teachers like yourself. And so, I often teach friends or people are like, oh, how do you, and I really enjoy that process of showing them how to do it. So I've only ever taught at a sort of very basic level. But I think it's a very a skill that has to be respected, teaching. So I don't think I'd ever just throw my hat in the ring as a teacher. But later on in life, maybe if it was something that could be good, I'd like to kind of learn to become a good teacher, because it's one thing being a drummer and then a teacher, right?
Exactly. I'll talk more about your writing process, if there is one, because for me, when I'm writing parts, it's quite an intuitive thing. It's quite hard to pin down. So is that similar for you?
Yeah, I think also it's hard sometimes not to get stuck into your kind of old habits and go-to fills that you like.
Yeah.
What I like when we're recording, my bandmates, Danny is our lead singer, guitarist, he produces, and I often like his take on ideas because he's not necessarily coming obviously from a drummer's perspective, and he's written a couple of fills on our recent album that I absolutely love, because I just would have never have thought of them because he's not thinking of it from a drummer's perspective.
So did he write that? Does he play any drums, or did he write it on MIDI and then?
No, he sings it out. He sings it to me.
Amazing.
But because he produces, he does drums on MIDI. Yeah, he does obviously like program drums, but. I think also like one of my other bandmates, when he's like our sort of main writer, he'll often come in and have a whole song written, and he plays a bit of drums, and because he's so good with hooks, often the drums fit the hook of the riff he's written, and I'm not going to mess with that. I'm like, that's perfect. But then sometimes songs are written on acoustic, or like last album we did a lot of songs where we just like jammed in the studio and parts were just literally like improvised, and it was like, oh, that feels good. And so it's very much a collaborative thing for me, and just trial and error, the luxury of that, of having that in the studio, and collaborating with my bandmates. I mean, I've worked with a couple of other friends, recorded some drums for other like friends working on projects, and again, I think as the drummer, like it's putting your ego to one side and allowing the songwriter to have a like a say on it, because they'll very much have a vision for the whole song. Yeah,
it's about work. It's a collaborative thing. It's about serving the song at the end.
Exactly, and there's a couple of songs again that a bass player wrote that, and he plays no drums. And I'm like, but what do you want? How do you hear this song? And he would like, I remember he was like, oh, I want it like this, and I was like thinking, I don't know if that works, but I did it, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds really cool. Like, so it's very much a collaborative process for me.
No, that makes complete sense. Obviously, my channel is mostly beginner, early, intermediate players. Is there any, so if you wanted to get into a similar position, playing in bands, that kind of thing, what advice would you give to someone? Either something technical or advice about just being a good hang musician? Is that important? What would you say?
I think a huge thing about being a good bandmate is just being like a good person to be around. Like you soon find when you join a band and you start doing things, when there's creative decisions involved, it's a very personal setup. People can get quite sensitive, and it's, it can quite quickly highlight issues amongst relationships. So it's very much like trying to be able to take criticism well, or direction well. And often that direction is aimed at a drummer in a rehearsal room. But always work hard, always just be a good person to hang out with, really.
It's much more important, I think, people think about. It's a huge element.
It's one thing being an amazing drummer, but if you're a bit of then
don't be
want you in their band, right?
Core advice from don't be well, thank you so much. I think you're being pulled away somewhere else.
One.
But thank you so much. And you. I can't believe you knew who I was.
Yeah, no, of course. I love the online drumming. It's great.
Yes, thank you so much.
And I like your style. It's really cool.
Thank you. Well, have a great day. Great download.
All right, I will.
I'll catch you hopefully online. Bye. Nice. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more just like this one, then you can either click over here for another one or over here. It's entirely up to you. But another option is you could subscribe. That would help an awful lot. She thinks it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. Just saying.